The first question, when asked about the advisory board and the charge, probably the main ideas that are coming up from this group is, first of all, that the group really has to poll the community and find out exactly what all members of the community want from a diverse group of people. The other is that they need to have a clear vision and establish a clear vision for what could the center be, thinking outside of the box and what the current reality is. And then the other one is that a task force is created, their decision needs to be timely in nature. It needs to be more like a task force, not something that goes on and on and on. For the second question, having to do with how do we be self-sustaining, the big ideas that came up here is that, first of all, we really need to think beyond Belfair. Thinking bigger than what's existing and local nonprofits think about in terms of successful parks or successful collaborative partnerships that have worked. And also to look at the history of what's occurred, of what has gone right, when was it successful, look at those, the reasons for those successes and build upon those and not repeat the things that were not successful.
So the idea of the advisory committee was to actually get a vision, and one of the ideas was to get a vision and mission from the greater community and then bring that to the board. There also, they talked about the idea of really finding out and understanding all the pieces of the Feller Center and then communicating that with the community along with then talking with the board, kind of being a link to the board. We also talked about having a strong communication between Feller and the manager of the school board and attending the regular school board meetings. And then as far as sustaining it, the idea came that creating fees or really kind of what we said, forced donations at times. So actually making it more of an event planning, bringing people in that would help us with event planning, inviting organizations, groups such as biking groups and different kind of running groups and things like that to come and actually use the center. We also discussed the idea of community colleges, bringing in different organizations and entities such as that can come in and bring more opportunities to our community. So it was more about, it is okay to bring other people in to help us manage this, get the experts in, some people that can really help us and make this a really great place, but always keep the underlying theme of the will and the needs of the community and what makes Feller great, because we really felt that Feller was the gem of the community.
Not a lot different from us from what I've heard, but different ideas. The will of keeping it to the intent of the will was a big part of what we talked about. We had a statement that we did, a summary statement for question 1. I think I'll just read it. Charge and recommend some group find the best way to make the center self-sufficient in accordance with the intent of the will. That was really the gist of question number 1 from this group. Then we got into brainstorming ideas, which they had some great ones. One of them that came out strong was that Belfair needs a festival that supports the center. So something that would be annual, the funds that were raised would go to support it. And then monthly events came out. Some of the same ideas as far as getting people there and using the resource that way. Another thing was partnerships came up, partnerships with some of the local organizations around there and tightening those partnerships and using that to also support the center.
We also didn't say a whole lot of things different. Very, just really want to preserve the Feller as the gem of the community. I think that that's a theme that everybody's hearing. We had several of the same things. There needs to be the advisory committee, there needs to be a charge and a vision, and that it needs to research and make sure we're following the intent of the will. And that there needs to be transparency in the communication between that committee and the board or the entity that's in charge of that. There was a lot of agreement about following the legalities, and just making sure we're doing the right thing, to make sure we're moving forward in the right way. And then in terms of self-sustaining, lots of talk about a park district, lots of talk about leasing it to an entity that is in the community that has experience in grant writing and bringing in partnerships with the other community organizations and maintaining that. I think that although there's some diversity in how the opinions of the group, I think we can all agree that we're here to keep the Feller running in the same direction and connected to the community like it has been.
Most of the ideas were the same as the rest of the tables. One that I just want to say was anyone that was going to be part of the advisory committee should not be a part of anyone previously involved with Feller or anyone seeking the Feller wetlands either. Also, the one was the school district should not continue paying for management of the land. And let's see, our number 2 question, fundraisers, and that should be the job of the advisory committee to decide.